He quit his job to protect the Apache horse everyone treated as a problem, but when the animal touched its muzzle to his hand, as if finally recognizing someone who wouldn't abandon him, even the ranch hands froze. And 1 hour later, when the tribal chief appeared at the gate with a grim expression, the silence that fell over the ranch made the man tremble. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The afternoon sun beat down on the dusty stable yard, making the air shimmer. Jack Foster tightened the last double knot on his bootlace and stood up from checking a fence post. His hands were dirty, and he could taste dust. "Foster, get over here." The voice was sharp like a crack of wood. It was Clay, the ranch owner. He stood by the big pen at the far end of the yard, rolling a toothpick in the corner of his mouth. 2 other ranch hands, Dan and Mike, stood nearby, their arms crossed. Jack's heart, already a quiet drum in his chest, began to pound a little louder. He walked over, his eyes drifting to the pen. Inside stood the big stallion. His coat was the color of dark earth. He stood perfectly still, head high, watching them. The other cowboys called him mean. They said he was bad. They said his eyes held a devil. Jack saw a horse that was scared. "Yes, sir," Jack said, looking at Clay's shoulder. Clay jerked a thumb toward the pen. "This ends today. That animal's a problem. He's dangerous and he's eating my feed. I want him gone." Dan chuckled, a dry sound. "He'll kick your head off if you get near him, Clay." "I'm not getting near him," Clay said. He looked at Jack. "You see that gate on the far side? The one that opens to the wash? You're gonna go open it. Then you and the boys are gonna spook him from this side. He'll run right out into the desert. Problem solved." Jack's mouth went dry. He looked at the horse. The horse's ears were pinned back, its eyes wide, showing the whites. It knew something was wrong. It always knew. "Chase him out?" Jack asked softly. "That's what I said," Clay replied, his voice getting harder. "He's a desert horse. He'll figure it out, or he won't. Not our business anymore." Jack looked at the vast, dry land beyond the fence. It was miles of nothing, no water, just rock and heat and coyotes. The horse was strong, but alone and scared. Jack thought of the horse standing out there as the sun went down, confused and abandoned. His chest felt tight. "You'll be lost," Jack said. Clay's face turned a deeper red. "He's lost now, boy. He's no good to anyone. Now go open that gate." Jack did not move. He looked at the ground, at his double-knotted boots. He thought of the horse flinching every time a bucket clanged. He thought of it standing alone in the pen every night. He thought of it running, terrified, into an empty sea of sand. "No," Jack said. The word came out quiet but clear. The yard got very still. Dan and Mike stopped smiling. Clay took a step closer. "What did you say to me?" Jack made himself look up past Clay's chin. "I said no, sir. I won't chase him out. It ain't right." Clay's laugh was short and harsh. "You won't. You work for me. You do what I say." "Not this," Jack said. His hands were trembling, so he shoved them in his pockets. I quit my job. Then you can't tell me to do it." The silence that followed was heavy and hot. Clay stared at him, his eyes narrowed. "You're quitting? Over this devil horse?" "He's not a devil," Jack whispered. Then stronger, "He's just scared." Clay shook his head, a slow, disgusted motion. "Fine, you're fired. Now get off my property. Dan, Mike, you get that gate open." But Jack did not turn to leave. He looked at the horse in the pen. The horse was watching him. Jack walked slowly to the fence rail and sat down on the dusty ground, his back against a post. He pulled his canteen from his belt and set it beside him. "What are you doing?" Clay demanded. "Staying," Jack said, looking straight at the horse. "I'm not leaving him." Clay threw his hands up. "Suit yourself. You sit there and bake. See if that crazy horse thanks you." Clay stomped away, Dan and Mike following. They didn't go to the gate. They just left him there. Jack let out a long, shaky breath. He was out of a job. He had little money. He had nowhere to go, but he had a canteen of water, and he had a fence post to lean on. He sat there as the sun crawled across the sky. The horse in the pen didn't move for a long time. It just watched him. After an hour, it took a single step closer, then another. Jack didn't move. He didn't reach out. He just sat. "It's okay," he said to the horse. his voice barely above the sound of the wind. "I know you're not bad. They just don't know how to look. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere." The horse stood about 10 feet away, its sides moving with its breath. Its ears twitched, forward, then back. It was listening. Jack kept talking, soft and steady words about nothing at all, about the shape of the clouds, about the heat. He sat there until the shadows grew long. He sat there as the ranch hands finished their work for the day, giving him strange looks as they passed. He sat there as the sky turned orange and then purple. He didn't have a plan. He just knew, deep in his bones, that he could not get up and walk away. The horse finally lowered its head and took a bite of hay from the ground. It was still watching him. Jack took a small sip from his canteen. He had a lot of sitting to do. He would be there tomorrow, and the day after that. He would sit there until the horse understood one thing above all else. Jack Foster was not going to leave. The sun went down. The sky grew dark. Jack stayed by the fence. He pulled his jacket tighter around himself. The night in Arizona could get cold, even after a hot day. He could hear the sounds of the ranch settling down. A door closed. A light went off in the bunkhouse. The only light left came from the big moon and the stars. In the pen, the horse was a dark shape. Jack could hear it moving, the soft crunch of its hooves on the dirt, the sound of it breathing. Jack talked to it. His voice was low and steady in the dark. "My name is Jack," he said. "I used to muck out the stalls over there. I always did yours last. I gave you the cleanest water. I think you knew that." The horse did not come closer, but it did not move away. "I don't have a job here anymore," Jack continued. He wasn't sure why he was saying these things. It just felt better than silence. "So I got nothing but time now, all the time in the world." He stayed there all night. He dozed off a few times, his head nodding against the fence post. Each time he woke up, he saw the horse standing there, watching. It was like they were both keeping watch. When the sky turned from black to deep blue, and then to pale gray, the ranch began to wake up. A rooster crowed. A door slammed. Dan, one of the ranch hands, walked out of the bunkhouse. He stopped when he saw Jack. He walked over, his boots kicking up little puffs of dust. "You're still here?" Dan asked. He sounded more surprised than angry. "Yes," Jack said. His voice was rough from the cold night air. Dan shook his head. He looked at the horse, then back at Jack. "Clay's still mad. He ain't gonna pay you. You know that, right?" "I know," Jack said. "You gonna sit there till you die of thirst?" Dan asked. "I have water," Jack said, holding up his canteen. It was half empty. Dan stared at him for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and walked toward the main house. A few minutes later, he came back. He didn't look at Jack. He just tossed a brown paper sack over the fence. It landed in the dust near Jack's feet. Jack opened it. Inside was a biscuit and a piece of bacon, cold and greasy. He looked up at Dan, who was already walking away. "Thank you," Jack called out. Dan just waved a hand, not looking back. Jack ate the food slowly. He was very hungry. He took a small sip of water. He would need to make it last. The day passed. The sun rose high and hot. Jack's skin felt burned. He kept his hat low over his eyes. He sat still. He talked sometimes. He told the horse about his grandmother, about growing up in a small town. He told it things he had never told anyone. "She used to sing when she made pancakes," Jack said. "Real off-key. It was the best sound." The horse stood in the shade of a small lean-to in the pen. It watched him. On the third afternoon, something changed. Jack was just sitting, his eyes closed against the bright sun. He heard a soft sound, the slow, careful steps of a heavy animal. He opened his eyes. The horse was walking toward him. It stopped about 5 feet from the fence. Its head was low. Its nostrils flared, sniffing the air. Jack's heart beat very fast. He did not move. He did not reach out. He just sat, letting the horse look. "Hello," Jack whispered. The horse took one more step forward, then another. It stood at the fence on the other side of the rails. It was close enough for Jack to see the fine hairs around its soft nose, to see the long scar on its shoulder, to see its eye, dark and deep and looking right at him. Jack slowly turned his hand over, opening his palm. He held it flat, resting on his knee. It was an offer, nothing more. The horse sniffed. Its breath was warm on Jack's skin. It stretched its neck out just a little. Its nose, velvety and soft, touched the center of Jack's palm. The touch was so light, it lasted only a second. Then the horse pulled back, watching him. Jack felt a tear roll down his dusty cheek. He did not know why. He just smiled, a real, full smile that made his face feel new. "That's good," he whispered. "That's real good." At that moment, Mike was walking across the yard with a coil of rope. He saw them. He stopped walking. He dropped the rope. It landed in the dust with a thud. "Well, I'll be," Mike said, his voice loud in the quiet yard. The horse startled at the sound, jumping back a few steps. "Hush, Mike," Jack said softly, but it was too late. Other ranch hands stopped what they were doing. They came over one by one. They stood a little way off, watching the boy and the horse. No one spoke. No one moved. The whole ranch became so quiet you could hear the wind moving through the grass. Jack kept his eyes on the horse. "It's all right," he murmured. "They're just looking. It's all right." The horse, after a moment, relaxed. It did not come back to the fence, but it did not run to the far side of the pen. It just stood there, looking at Jack. In the deep quiet, a new sound began. It was a low rumble like far-off thunder, but the sky was clear and blue. It was the sound of many, many hooves. The sound grew louder. It was not thunder. It was the steady, rhythmic beat of many horses moving together. Every ranch hand turned away from Jack and the pen, looking toward the main gate. Clay Hendricks came out of the ranch house, his face set in a hard line. "What in the world is that racket?" he asked. No one answered him. They all just stared. The big metal gate to Red Mesa Ranch swung open, not with a crash, but with a slow, deliberate creak. A woman rode in first. She sat straight on a brown and white pinto horse. She wore a simple white shirt and a long brown skirt. Her dark hair was tied back. Her face was calm and strong. She looked at the group of men, her eyes moving from one face to another until they rested on Jack, still sitting by the fence. Behind her, the Apache riders entered. There were more than 20 of them, men and women, all on horses that moved as if they were one animal. They did not speak. They spread out in a wide, quiet line behind the woman. Their faces were serious. Last, an older man rode through the gate. He was tall, even sitting on his tall chestnut horse. His long hair, streaked with gray, was braided. He wore a faded red bandana around his neck. His face had many lines like the canyon walls, and his eyes went straight to the big stallion in the pen. He looked at the horse for a long time, then his eyes moved to Jack. The silence now was heavy. It was a thick, frightening quiet. Jack felt it push down on his chest. He slowly got to his feet, his legs stiff from sitting. Clay stepped forward, putting his hands on his hips. "This is private property," he said, his voice too loud in the quiet. "You can't just ride in here." The older man dismounted from his horse. He moved slowly with a quiet dignity. He did not look at Clay. He walked toward the pen, his eyes on the stallion. The ranch hands moved out of his way without a word. The woman dismounted too. She walked beside the older man. She spoke, and her voice was clear and calm. "This is Chief Kaya. I am Lena, his niece. We have come for the horse." Clay hurried to get in front of them, blocking their path to the fence. "Now hold on 1 minute. That's my horse. I bought him fair and square." Chief Kaya stopped walking. For the first time, he looked at Clay. His gaze was like stone. "That one," he said. His voice was low, but it carried across the whole yard. "That one is not yours to send away. His hooves remember our songs." Jack stood frozen by the fence. The stallion had retreated to the far side of the pen, its head high, watching the new people. "What's that supposed to mean?" Clay said, his face getting red. "It's a horse. I have a bill of sale." Lena looked from Clay to the horse, then to Jack. "His name is not on your paper. His spirit has a name. He is a guide. He leads the spirits of those who have passed on to the next world. He was taken from our people many years ago." "A guide?" Clay scoffed. He rolled the toothpick in his mouth. "Listen, I'm sorry for your loss, but this is a ranch. We raise cattle. We don't raise spirit guides." Chief Kaya's eyes went back to Jack. "You," he said, "you sit with him. You protect him." All the eyes in the yard turned to Jack. He wanted to disappear into the dust. He looked at the ground, then forced himself to meet the chief's gaze. "Yes, sir," he whispered. "Why?" Kaya asked. It was not an angry question. It was a real one. Jack's mouth was dry. Because he was scared, and everyone wanted to chase him away. It wasn't right. Chief Kaya gave a single slow nod. He looked back at Clay. This boy sees with his heart. He has done what is right. This changes the thing. The horse is here, which is a wound for my people, but this boy has shown it respect. This matters. Clay threw his hands up. It doesn't change a thing. That horse is dangerous. He's a problem. I was solving my problem until this kid decided to get feelings about it. Lena's voice remained steady, but it grew firmer. Your problem, Mr. Clay, is our heartbreak. That horse is a piece of our family that was stolen. Him being here in a pen, called a devil, it tears the wound open every day. The air felt like it was cracking. The Apache riders sat perfectly still on their horses. The ranch hands shifted their weight, looking at Clay, then at the armed riders, unsure. Jack stood in the middle between the fence and the two groups. He looked at the stallion, who was watching Chief Kaya. The horse's ears were forward, not pinned back. It was not scared of this man. Chief Kaya took one more step toward Clay. He did not blink. The horse leaves with us. Today. Clay's jaw tightened. His pride was a wall you could almost see. Like hell he does. This is my land. That is my property. You all need to turn around and ride out. For a long moment, no one moved. No one breathed. The only sound was the wind and the soft stamp of a horse's hoof in the dirt. The standoff had begun. The silence stretched on, thin and tight like a wire. Chief Kaya did not look away from Clay. Clay's face was a dark red. He opened his mouth to speak, but Lena spoke first. This is not a fight to have today, Uncle, she said quietly, her words meant for Kaya but loud enough for all to hear. Not like this. Kaya's eyes stayed on Clay for a moment longer. Then he gave a single, slow nod. He looked past Clay to the horse in the pen. His expression for a second was not that of a chief, but of a man with a deep old sadness. We will camp by the river trail, Kaya said, his voice still low. We will not leave without what is ours. He turned and walked back to his horse. He did not look at Clay again. The Apache riders moved as one, turning their horses. They followed their chief back through the open gate, the sound of their leaving just as steady as the sound of their coming. Lena was the last to go. She looked at Jack. Walk with me to the gate, she said. It was not a question. Jack glanced at Clay, who was staring at the ground, his fists clenched. Jack quickly stepped away from the fence and fell into step beside Lena. They walked slowly across the yard, the dust soft under their feet. When they were out of earshot of the others, Lena spoke. You did a good thing, a brave thing. Jack shook his head, looking at his boots. I just made a bigger mess. No, Lena said. You made the truth visible. That horse has been a ghost here. Now everyone sees him. That is the first step. They reached the open gate. The Apache riders were a cloud of dust moving toward the distant line of the trees that marked the river. Lena stopped and turned to Jack. Her dark eyes were serious. There is more to the story, she said. I want you to understand why this is so important. Jack waited. He could feel his heart beating hard again. That horse was special to one person, Lena began. Her voice was factual, but there was a layer of pain underneath. A young woman. She was my aunt. She was Chief Kaya's daughter. Jack's eyes widened. His daughter? Yes, her name was Elan. She loved that horse. They were always together. Then one night 20 years ago, both of them disappeared. The horse and Elan vanished from the reservation. Lena looked out toward the riders. The horse showed up here years later, sold to a trader, then to Clay. But my aunt, she never came back. The words settled over Jack like a cold blanket. This wasn't just about a stolen animal. It was about a stolen person. Oh, Jack whispered. The weight of it was enormous. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, Lena said. No one here did, but for my uncle, seeing the horse is like seeing his daughter's ghost. It is a wound that never closed. Taking the horse back, it is not about owning a thing. It is about finding a piece of her. Maybe it helps the wound heal. Maybe it helps us understand what happened that night. Jack thought of the horse's scar, its fearful eyes. He thought of a young woman who was missing, a father who had grieved for 20 years. The pieces connected in his mind, forming a picture that was much bigger and sadder than he had imagined. I want to help, he said, the words coming out before he could think. Lena studied his face. Why? This is not your fight. Jack struggled to find the reason. Because it's the right fight, and he trusts me. He nodded back toward the pen. The horse, I mean. Maybe I can help him be calm, for when you take him home. A faint, respectful smile touched Lena's lips. You have a good heart, Jack Foster. She looked toward the ranch house, where Clay was now talking angrily with Dan and Mike. But your boss will not let this go. He sees his authority challenged. Men like him do not bend easily. What will he do? Jack asked. I do not know, Lena said. But we will be watching, and we will be ready. She placed a hand on his arm just for a second. Thank you for listening. She mounted her pinto horse in one smooth motion. With a final nod to Jack, she rode out of the gate to catch up with her people. Jack stood alone by the open gate. He looked back at the ranch yard. Clay was staring right at him, his expression pure storm. The other hands had gone back to work, but the air was still thick with tension. Jack knew Lena was right. Clay would not bend. He would break, or he would try to break something else. The horse was in more danger now than ever before. Jack's job was gone. His home was gone. All he had was a dusty spot by a fence and a horse that was connected to a 20-year-old mystery. He walked slowly back to his place by the pen. The stallion came to the fence, nudging Jack's shoulder with its nose. It's a lot, isn't it, boy? Jack said softly, leaning his forehead against the horse's neck. We're in the middle of something real big. He sat down in the dust, his back against the post. The watch was not over. It had only just begun. The day burned away into evening. Jack stayed by the pen. Dan brought him another biscuit as the sun was setting, dropping it over the fence without a word. The ranch felt like a pot about to boil over. Men moved quickly, not looking at each other. Clay was inside the main house, and the light in his window stayed on. Jack whispered to the horse as the stars came out. I need to call you something, he said. The horse's ears twitched toward his voice. I can't just keep saying horse. How about spirit? You've got a lot of it hiding in there. The horse nudged Jack's knee softly through the fence rails. Jack took it as a yes. Later, when the moon was high, Jack heard the front door of the ranch house slam shut. He shrank back against the fence post, making himself small in the shadows. Clay's voice, tight and angry, carried across the quiet yard. He was talking to someone. Two figures stood with him on the porch. Jack recognized Dan and Mike. I've had it, Clay said, his words sharp. I'm done with the whole stupid mess. Those folks can camp out there all they want. They're not getting a thing. What are you gonna do, Clay? Dan asked. They ain't leaving. Oh, they'll leave when there's nothing here to wait for, Clay said. He lowered his voice, but Jack, straining to hear, could still make out the words. We're taking the horse tonight. In a couple of hours, when it's good and dark, we'll load him in the big stock trailer. Mike shifted his weight. The Apache camp is right down the river trail. They'll see the trailer lights. We're not going that way, Clay snapped. We're going north, through the back pasture gate. There's an old mining road, bumpy as hell, but it comes out near the highway 50 miles from here. By sunrise, that animal will be in another county. I'll sell him to the first buyer I find. Then I'll ride back and tell our friends their sacred guide ran off in the night. Nothing they can do about it. Dan was quiet for a moment. That's a long, rough ride in the dark, boss. You got a better idea? Clay's tone was a challenge. I'm not losing to a bunch of mystical nonsense on my own land. We get the horse, we leave. Simple. You two in, or do I find someone who wants to keep getting paid? There was another pause. We're in, Dan said, his voice quiet. Good. Meet me at the barn in 2 hours. Bring ropes, and keep it quiet. The three men went back inside. The porch light went off. Jack sat frozen in the dark. His blood felt like ice water. They were going to steal Spirit away in just 2 hours. That rough road could hurt the horse. And then Spirit would be gone forever, sold to who knows who. The Apache people would never see him again. Chief Kaya's hope of healing that old wound would be shattered. Jack's hands shook. He couldn't stop them alone. Dan and Mike were big men, strong from years of work. Clay was determined. They would just push Jack aside, or worse. He looked toward the dark line of trees where the river was, where the Apache camp was. Lena's words came back to him. Asterisk. We will be watching, and we will be ready. But they weren't watching this. They didn't know about the back gate and the mining road. A terrifying thought rose in Jack's mind. The only thing more frightening than Clay's plan was the idea of what he had to do to stop it. He had to leave the fence. He had to go to the Apache camp. He had to tell them. The thought made him feel sick. Walking into their camp in the middle of the night, interrupting Chief Kaya, they might not even listen to him. He was just a ranch hand, a kid who caused this problem. He looked at Spirit, a calm shadow in the moonlit pen. The horse trusted him. Jack had promised not to leave. "This isn't leaving," Jack whispered, his voice trembling. "This is getting help. I have to try." With a deep, shaky breath, he stood up. His legs were stiff. He took one last look at the ranch house, dark and silent. Then he turned and started walking, not toward the main gate, but cutting across the dusty pasture toward the river trail. The moon gave just enough light to see the path. Each step away from the pen felt wrong. Each step into the dark night felt like a mistake. But he kept walking, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He was going to ask for help. The night was very dark away from the ranch yard. Jack stumbled over rocks and dry grass, his eyes straining to see. The only sounds were his own breathing and the distant call of a night bird. He followed the river trail, the soft sand easier to walk on. After what felt like a long time, he saw the soft glow of firelight through the trees. His steps slowed. What was he doing? He was walking into a camp of people he did not know, in the middle of the night, to tell them their plan had failed. He almost turned back. Then he thought of Spirit in the trailer, bouncing down a rough road, scared and alone. He kept walking. He reached the edge of the camp. Several small fires burned low. People slept in bedrolls. Horses were picketed in a line, their heads down. A man was sitting by the largest fire, his back to Jack. It was Chief Kaya. Lena was there too, writing in a small book. She looked up first. Her eyes met Jack's across the camp. She did not look surprised. She closed her book and stood up. Before Jack could take another step, a shadow moved from behind a tree. A young Apache man stepped into his path. He did not speak. He just looked at Jack, his expression firm. "I need to speak to Chief Kaya," Jack whispered, his voice cracking. "It's urgent." Lena appeared beside the young man. She said something to him in a language Jack did not understand. The man nodded and stepped back, melting into the shadows again. "Jack," Lena said, "what is wrong?" Clay has a plan," Jack said, the words tumbling out. "Tonight, in a couple of hours, he's taking the horse. They're going out the back pasture gate to an old mining road. They want to sell him far away before sunrise." Lena's calm face grew very still. She turned toward the fire. "Uncle." Chief Kaya had turned around. He had heard everything. He gestured for Jack to come closer. Jack walked to the fire, feeling every eye in the camp now on him, even from those who seemed to be sleeping. "Say this again," Kaya said. His voice was low. Jack took a shuddering breath. "Clay is angry. He does not want to give you the horse. He and 2 men are going to take Spirit in the night. They are using a stock trailer. They are leaving in 2 hours. They said they will tell you the horse ran away." He wrung his hands. "I can't stop them alone. The ranch hands will help him. I need help. Can you help? Not for me. For the horse. And for the truth about your daughter." The last part came out in a rush. Jack looked at the ground, waiting. Chief Kaya was silent for a long time. He looked into the fire. He touched the simple worn bracelet on his wrist. The silence was heavy. "You left your post," Kaya said finally. Jack's head shot up. "I had to warn you. You left the horse alone to come here," Kaya continued, his eyes now on Jack. "That was a risk. They could have come early." "I know," Jack said, his shoulders slumping. "It was a gamble. But sitting there doing nothing was a sure loss." A faint, almost invisible smile touched the corners of Kaya's mouth. It was gone in a second. He looked at Lena and gave a small nod. Lena turned and spoke a few quiet words into the dark. Soft sounds immediately began around the camp. The rustle of blankets, the quiet stamp of feet. People were waking up, moving with purpose but without panic. Kaya stood. He was a tall man, and in the firelight, he seemed even taller. "A scared heart does not walk alone into a dark camp to ask for help," he said to Jack. "You did not see a problem. You saw a soul. We have a word for that. It means one who understands. He placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. The weight was firm, but not heavy. We will help. We will go back with you. We will be there when they come. The relief that washed over Jack was so strong his knees felt weak. Thank you, he whispered. Do not thank me yet, Kaya said. His eyes were hard as flint. The night is not over. We go now. Lena handed Jack a canteen of water. Drink. You have a long walk back. As Jack drank, he watched the camp come alive. Men and women saddled their horses with quiet efficiency. No one spoke above a murmur. In less than 10 minutes, they were all mounted. Chief Kaya rode his chestnut horse to the front. Lena rode beside him. Kaya looked down at Jack. You will lead the way on foot. We will follow. Walk quickly. Jack nodded. He turned and started back the way he had come, his fear now mixed with a new, fierce hope. The soft sound of many hooves followed him through the dark, a quiet army moving under the stars. The ranch was a pool of shadows under the bright moon. Jack led the Apache riders to the tree line at the edge of the main pasture, just beyond the circle of light from the single yard lamp. From here they could see the horse pen, the barn, and the big stock trailer hitched to Clay's truck near the back gate. Chief Kaya raised a hand. Every rider stopped. The only sound was the soft breathing of the horses. Kaya dismounted. Lena and several others did the same. The rest stayed mounted, holding the reins of the horses that were now on foot. They became still shapes among the trees. They are not here yet, Lena whispered, looking toward the dark ranch house. Jack's heart was hammering against his ribs. They said 2 hours. It's been about that. Kaya nodded. We wait. We stay in the dark. He looked at his people and made a series of small hand gestures. Without a word, they moved. Some knelt behind water troughs. Others stood in the deep shadows of the barn wall. They positioned themselves between the horse pen and the trailer, and between the trailer and the back gate. They became part of the night. Lena touched Jack's arm and pointed to a spot near the corner of the barn. You stand there, Jack, where you can be seen. Jack wanted to hide, but he understood. He was the reason they were all here. He walked to the spot and stood, alone in a patch of moonlight. He felt completely exposed. They did not wait long. The back door of the ranch house opened with a quiet click. 3 figures came out, Clay, Dan, and Mike. They carried coiled ropes. They walked quickly and quietly toward the barn, not toward the pen yet. They were going for the trailer first. Clay stopped suddenly, squinting toward the horse pen. Where's the kid? He hissed. Dan looked around. Maybe he finally gave up and left. Good, Clay muttered. One less thing to worry about. Let's get the trailer opened up. They turned toward the stock trailer. As they did, they walked right into the middle of the waiting Apache people. Chief Kaya stepped out from the shadow of the barn wall. He did not move quickly. He just stepped into their path. Lena stepped out on the other side. Then all around them other figures emerged from the darkness, forming a quiet circle. The mounted riders moved in from the trees, blocking the way to the back gate. Clay and his men froze. Dan dropped his rope. What is this? Clay said, his voice loud with shock and anger. He spun around, seeing the circle of people. His eyes landed on Jack standing by the barn. You brought them here. Jack said nothing. He just stood his ground. Chief Kaya spoke. His voice was calm and filled the night. You move no further, Clay Hendricks. Clay's face was pale in the moonlight. He looked from Kaya to the trailer, to his men. He was trapped. This is my property. You are trespassing. We are preventing a theft, Lena said. Her voice was clear like a bell. You are planning to steal that horse and break the law. It's my horse to steal, Clay shouted. The words sounded foolish even to him. He clenched his fists. You have no right. We have every right, Kaya said. He took a step forward. The circle tightened. That horse carries the spirit of my daughter's love. He carries the prayers of my people. You see dollar signs and trouble. I see a child's hand on his mane. I see a family waiting for a sign. Clay shook his head, but his anger was starting to crack, edged with confusion and a dawning shame. It's just a horse, he said, but his voice was weaker. No, Jack spoke up. The word felt huge coming from his mouth. Everyone looked at him. He's not. He's spirit, and he's scared. and he's loved by people you never even thought about. You can't just sell that. You can't just drive it away. Clay looked at the boy he had fired. He looked at the determined faces of the Apache men and women. He looked at Dan and Mike, who stared at the ground, unwilling to fight. The fight drained out of Clay all at once. His shoulders slumped. He looked old and tired under the moon. He tossed his rope into the dirt. "All this fuss," he mumbled, not to anyone in particular. "All this fuss over one animal. I just wanted a quiet ranch." The silence that followed was different from before. It was no longer tight and dangerous. It was the quiet of a storm that had passed. Chief Kaya nodded slowly. "The fuss is over. You will leave the horse. You will leave him be. When the sun comes, we will take him home." Clay didn't argue. He just nodded, a short, defeated motion. He turned and walked back toward his house, not looking back. Dan and Mike followed, leaving their ropes in the dirt. The circle of people opened to let them pass, then closed again around the pen, around the horse, around Jack. The night watch was over. They had stood together, and they had won without a single punch thrown. The quiet after Clay walked away felt deep and wide. The Apache people did not move. They watched the ranch house door close. Then, as one, they turned their attention to the pen. Spirit stood at the fence, his head high, watching everything. Chief Kaya walked toward the horse. He moved slowly, his hands open at his sides. He stopped a few feet from the fence rails. He did not reach out. He just spoke, his voice so low only those closest could hear the words. They were not in English. The sound was soft, like flowing water. Spirit's ears flicked forward. He took one step, then another. He came to the fence and lowered his head until his forehead touched the wood, right near where Kaya's hand rested. Lena came to stand beside Jack. "He is welcoming him," she whispered. "He is telling him the long journey is almost over." After a moment, Kaya turned. He looked at his people, then his eyes found Jack. "Come here, Jack Foster." Jack's legs felt shaky, but he walked over. He stood next to Lena, facing the chief. "You spoke tonight," Kaya said. "Your words had strength. You said he is not just property. You said he is loved. Why do you love this horse?" Jack looked at Spirit, who now watched him with calm, dark eyes. "I don't know if it's love," Jack said honestly. "It's just, I saw he was alone. And I know what that feels like. I couldn't add to it. I could only stay." Kaya nodded. He looked from Jack to the horse and back again. The heart does not need a big word. Seeing the loneliness of another and choosing to stay, that is the beginning of all good things. He paused. "This horse has a foot in two worlds now. The world of my people, which he remembers, and your world, where one person saw his spirit." Lena spoke. "What happens now, Uncle? We take him home at sunrise?" "Yes," Kaya said. "But the boy comes too." Jack's breath caught. "Me?" "You are the bridge," Kaya said simply. "The horse trusts you. The journey to the reservation will be long. Your presence will keep him calm. And you," he looked at Jack with an appraising gaze, "you have nowhere else to go. Your heart is clear and strong like the canyon rock. It is a good heart to have near." Jack was speechless. He looked at Lena. "He is asking you to be part of it," Lena said, a gentle smile on her face. "To help bring him all the way home, to see where he belongs." A feeling swelled in Jack's chest, a feeling so big it hurt. It was the opposite of being alone. It was being asked, being needed. "Yes," he said, the word bursting out. "Yes, I want to come." "Good," Kaya said. He looked toward the east, where the sky was just beginning to lighten from the black to the deepest blue. "The sun comes. We will get ready." The Apache people moved with quiet purpose. Some went to bring the riderless horses from the trees. Others checked saddles and packs. No one bothered with the stock trailer. They would ride, and Spirit would be led among them. Lena put a hand on Jack's shoulder. "You should get your things from the bunkhouse, if you have any." Jack nodded. He had very little. An extra shirt, his grandmother's old pocket knife, a blanket. It was all in a small bag under his bunk. He walked to the bunkhouse, his steps loud in the still yard. Inside it was dark and smelled of old leather and sweat. He quickly gathered his few belongings into his bag. As he stepped back out into the cool morning air, he saw Dan sitting on the porch steps of the main house. Dan looked up. "Heading out with them then?" Dan asked. His voice wasn't unkind. "Yes," Jack said. Dan nodded slowly. "You did a brave thing, kid. Stupid, but brave." He almost smiled. "Clay's in there drinking coffee and staring at the wall. He's not mad anymore. I think he's just tired." Jack didn't know what to say to that. "Thank you for the biscuits." Dan gave a short wave of his hand. Jack walked back to the pen. The sky was getting lighter by the minute, turning a soft gray. The Apache people were all mounted now, a quiet, impressive line. Lena held the reins of a gentle-looking gray horse. She nodded to an empty saddle. "This one is for you." Chief Kaya stood by the gate to the pen. He looked at Jack. "You open it," he said. "You let him out." Jack's hands trembled as he lifted the heavy metal latch. He swung the gate open wide. He stepped back. Spirit stood inside for a moment. He looked at the open gate, then at Chief Kaya, then at Jack. He walked forward, his steps sure and calm. He walked out of the pen he had lived in for years and stopped between the boy and the chief. The first ray of the morning sun broke over the distant hills, painting everything in gold. The horse was free. The journey home was about to begin. The morning air was cool and carried the smell of sagebrush. Jack swung up into the saddle of the gray horse Lena had given him. The horse was steady and calm. It felt strange to be riding out instead of walking or working. Chief Kaya did not get on his horse right away. He took a long braided rope from his saddle. He walked up to Spirit. The big stallion stood still, watching him. Kaya did not try to put a bit in his mouth or a halter on his head. He simply looped the rope gently around the horse's neck, leaving it loose. He held the other end. "We ride," Kaya said. He mounted his chestnut horse in one smooth motion. He held Spirit's rope lightly in his hand. The line of riders began to move. They did not go back through the main gate toward town. They turned south, toward the open land and the distant purple shapes of the mountains. Jack fell in line beside Lena near the back of the group. Spirit walked calmly beside Chief Kaya at the front, as if he knew the way. They rode in silence for a long time. The only sounds were the creak of leather, the soft thud of hooves on dirt, and the call of morning birds. Jack kept looking at Spirit. The horse walked with his head up, his ears forward. He did not look back at the ranch once. After a few hours, the sun grew warmer. Lena handed Jack a water skin. He drank and handed it back. "He is not pulling on the rope," Jack said, nodding toward the front. "He is not a prisoner," Lena said. "The rope is a promise. It says, 'Come with me.' He is choosing to follow." They rode down into a wide, dry wash and up the other side. When they reached the top of the rise, Chief Kaya stopped his horse. Everyone stopped behind him. Below them, spread out in the valley, was the reservation. There were houses, some old, some new. There were fields and grazing animals. There were children playing near a cluster of trees. Spirit took a step forward past Kaya. He lifted his nose into the wind and sniffed. He let out a long, low whinny. It was a sound Jack had never heard from him before. It was not a scared sound. It was a calling sound. From far below, an answer came. 2, then 3 other whinnies floated up from the valley. Spirit's ears pricked forward. He stamped one foot. Kaya let the rope slip from his hand. It fell to the ground. The horse was free. Spirit did not run. He looked at Kaya, then he turned his head and looked back at Jack. He stood between them. "He chooses," Kaya said, loud enough for all to hear. He looked at Jack. "He chooses his home, and he chooses the one who showed him kindness when the world was unkind. This is a good thing." Jack felt a lump in his throat. He didn't know what to say. Lena smiled. "He is saying you are part of his family now at 2, both places." Kaya nudged his horse forward, picking up the loose rope again. "We go down now. There are people who have waited a long time to see him." As they rode down into the valley, people came out of their houses. They came from the fields. They stood on porches and watched the riders come. They saw the big stallion walking beside their chief. Whispers ran through the crowd like wind through grass. An older woman with long white hair stepped to the front of the group. Her eyes were fixed on Spirit. They filled with tears. She did not say a word. She just placed a hand over her heart. Kaya rode up to her and stopped. He spoke to her in their language. The woman reached out a trembling hand. Spirit lowered his head and let her touch his face. She whispered something. then leaned her forehead against his neck and cried quiet tears. Jack watched from his saddle. He understood then. This was not just about a missing animal. This was a piece of a broken story coming home. He saw the sadness, but he also saw the relief. The healing Lena had talked about was beginning, right here in the dusty street. A young boy darted out from the crowd and stared up at Jack. "Are you the boy who stayed with the horse?" he asked. "Yes," Jack said. The boy grinned. "That's good." Then he ran back to his mother. Kaya turned his horse to face Jack. "You will stay here tonight. You will stay as long as you want. There is a place for you. There is work for hands that understand horses." Jack looked around at the faces watching him. They were curious, some wary, but none were angry. He looked at Spirit, who was now surrounded by people gently touching his sides, his neck, welcoming him. The horse was calm. He was home. Jack Foster, who had no job and no plan that morning, now had a new family and a purpose. He nodded to Chief Kaya. "Thank you," he said. And for the first time in a long time, the words felt full and true. Jack woke up on a narrow cot in a small, clean room. Sunlight came through a single window. For a moment, he did not know where he was. Then he remembered. The ride, the valley, the crying woman touching Spirit's face. He was on the reservation. He sat up and pulled on his boots, tying the laces in double knots out of habit. He stepped outside. The morning air was clear. He saw Lena sitting at a wooden table under a shade tree, writing in her journal. "Good morning," she said, looking up. "Did you sleep?" "Yes," Jack said. It was true. He had slept deeply. "Good. Come eat. Then there is work if you want it." The work was with the horses. A man named Ben showed Jack the communal corral. Ben was older, with a kind face and quiet hands. "Chief Kaya says you have a way," Ben said. "We have a young pony here who is skittish. See what you think." Jack spent the morning with the pony, not forcing anything, just being near. He talked to it in a soft voice. By noon, the pony was eating oats from his hand. In the afternoon, Jack walked to the pasture where Spirit was kept. The big stallion was grazing with 2 other horses. When he saw Jack, he lifted his head and walked over. Jack leaned on the fence. Spirit rested his head on the top rail, letting Jack scratch his forehead. "Looks like you remember him," a voice said. Jack turned. It was the young boy from the day before. The boy climbed up on the fence next to Jack. "He's your horse now?" the boy asked. "No," Jack said. "He's everyone's horse. He's home. I'm just his friend." "I heard what you did," the boy said. "My dad said you sat by the fence for days. He said you told the ranch boss no." "I was scared to do it," Jack admitted. The boy thought about this. "But you did it anyway. That's what my mom says being brave is." Jack looked at the boy. "Your mom is smart." A few days later, Lena found Jack fixing a hinge on the corral gate. "Someone is here to see you," she said. Her expression was unreadable. Jack followed her to the main meeting area. Standing there, holding his hat in his hands, was Dan from the Red Mesa Ranch. "Dan?" Jack said, surprised. Dan gave an awkward nod. "Jack, you look settled." "I am," Jack said. "What are you doing here?" Dan shifted his weight. "Couple things. First, Clay sent this." He held out a white envelope. "It's your last pay," he said. "Well, he said you earned it." Jack took the envelope. He didn't open it. "Thank you for bringing it." "Second," Dan said, looking around at the reservation, at the people going about their day. "Some of the folks in Red Canyon heard the story, the real story, about the horse being stolen with the chief's daughter and all." He cleared his throat. "Some of us feel bad about how things were. A few of the guys were wondering if it was okay, if we could come see the horse sometime, just to see him looking good, not to cause trouble." Lena, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. "That could be arranged, on a day we agree on. It would be a good thing." Dan looked relieved. "That'd be good, a good thing." He put his hat back on. "Anyway, that's all. Take care of yourself, kid." "You too, Dan." Jack watched Dan ride away. He looked at the envelope in his hand, then at Lena. "I didn't expect that." "A story can change people," Lena said. "It changed you. It changed Clay a little, I think. Why not a whole town?" Weeks turned into a month. Jack had his own small room. He worked with Ben every day. He ate meals with Lena and Chief Kaya. He learned words for hello and thank you and horse. He still talked to the animals, and people began to accept it as just something Jack did. One evening after dinner, Chief Kaya gestured for Jack to walk with him. They walked to the edge of the village, looking out at the pasture where the horses were. "You are not leaving," Kaya said. It wasn't a question. "No," Jack said. "I'm not." "Good. This is your place now, as much as any place can be." Kaya was quiet for a moment. "You taught me something, Jack Foster." "Me?" Jack asked, surprised. "Yes. I looked for my daughter in that horse for a long time. I looked for anger. I looked for a fight. You did not look for anything. You just saw a horse that needed peace. And by giving him peace, you helped an old man find a little peace too. You showed me that strength is not only in fighting, it is in listening. It is in protecting. It is in standing in the middle, even when you shake with fear." Jack didn't know what to say. He just nodded. "The boy who was alone is not alone anymore," Kaya said. He placed a hand on Jack's shoulder, then turned and walked back toward his house. Jack stayed by the pasture as the sun set, painting the sky in colors of orange and purple. Spirit came and stood by the fence, as he often did. Jack rested his hand on the horse's strong neck. He was not the same person who had sat down by a fence at the Red Mesa Ranch. That boy was scared and saw only what was right in front of him. This young man saw a community. He saw a future. He had a family that chose him, and a purpose that felt solid and true. The story of the Apache horse was not just about a horse anymore. It was about how a town and a tribe began to heal. It started with one quiet boy and one scared horse who found trust in each other. And it was just the beginning.